The old car coughed and wheezed as Lisa drove down the dusty road. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. In the seat next to her, Charlie, her golden dog, kept looking at her with worried eyes. Dogs always know when something's wrong. 3 days ago, Lisa's whole world fell apart. She was wearing her grandmother's beautiful white wedding dress, standing in front of everyone she loved. The church was decorated with white roses. Her heart was beating fast with excitement. She was finally going to marry the man of her dreams. But then something terrible happened. Her boyfriend's best friend whispered something in his ear. Her future husband's face went pale. Without saying a word, he turned around and ran out the back door of the church. Just like that. Gone. Lisa stood there in her wedding dress, watching 200 people stare at her. Some gasped. Others whispered. Her mother started crying. Her father looked angry. The priest didn't know what to say. It was the most embarrassing moment of her life. Later, she found out the truth. Her boyfriend had been seeing her best friend behind her back for months. Her best friend was supposed to be her maid of honor. The betrayal cut deep into her heart like a knife. Now Lisa had no money left. The wedding had cost everything she saved. She had nowhere to go. Her apartment lease was up because she was supposed to move in with her husband. She felt lost and broken. Then she remembered something. Her old college friend Amy had a brother who owned a ranch in Montana. Amy once said he always needed help during busy season. Lisa hadn't talked to Amy in 2 years, but she was desperate. She called Amy and explained what happened. Amy felt sorry for her and called her brother right away. The brother's name was Tom. He agreed to let Lisa work on his ranch in exchange for a place to stay. His voice sounded rough on the phone, but he seemed kind. So here she was, driving to a place she'd never been, to work a job she'd never done with only her dog and one suitcase. The GPS said she was almost there. The ranch appeared around a bend in the road. It was bigger than she expected. Rolling green fields stretched as far as she could see. Horses grazed peacefully in the distance. A big red barn sat next to a 2-story farmhouse with a wraparound porch. It looked like something from a movie. Lisa parked her car and took a deep breath. Charlie jumped out and immediately started sniffing around, his tail wagging. At least one of them was excited. A man walked out of the barn. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. This had to be Tom. He was tall and strong-looking, wearing worn jeans and cowboy boots. His brown hair stuck out from under a baseball cap. His face was tanned from working outside. When he looked at her, his blue eyes were kind but serious. Tom didn't say much. He just nodded and walked over to her car. Without asking, he picked up her suitcase from the trunk. Charlie trotted over to him, and Tom bent down to pet him. "The bunkhouse where the other workers stay is full," Tom said in a low voice. "You can stay in the main house. There's a spare bedroom upstairs." Lisa started to say something about not wanting to be a bother, but Tom was already walking toward the house. Charlie followed him like they were old friends. The house was clean but simple. Tom showed her to a small bedroom with a window that looked out over the fields. The bed had a colorful quilt on it. There was a small dresser and a chair by the window. "Bathrooms down the hall," Tom said, setting her suitcase on the bed. "We start work at 5 in the morning. I'll show you what to do." 5 in the morning? Lisa usually woke up at 8 for her office job in the city, but she just nodded and thanked him. That night, Lisa lay in the unfamiliar bed listening to sounds she'd never heard before. Cows mooing in the distance, wind rustling through trees, an owl hooting somewhere. Charlie slept on the floor next to her bed, which made her feel less alone. She thought about her old life, the fancy apartment, the office job, the boyfriend who betrayed her. Everything seemed so far away now. She wondered if she was making a huge mistake coming here. But as she drifted off to sleep, she felt something she hadn't felt in days. Peace. Maybe this place could help her heal her broken heart. The next morning, Tom knocked on her door at exactly 5 o'clock. Lisa stumbled out of bed, still exhausted. She put on jeans and sneakers, the closest thing she had to work clothes. Tom was waiting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. He handed it to her without saying anything. The coffee was strong and black, but it woke her up. "First thing we do is feed the horses," Tom explained as they walked to the barn. "Then we let them out to the pasture. After that, we check on the cattle." The barn was warm and smelled like hay. Horses poked their heads out of their stalls when they heard Tom coming. They knew it was breakfast time. Tom showed Lisa how to measure the right amount of feed for each horse. Some horses were bigger and needed more food. Others were older and needed special grain. Each horse had a name and personality. There was Thunder, a big black horse who was Tom's favorite. There was Daisy, a gentle brown mare who loved attention. There was Rocket, a young horse who was always excited and energetic. And there was Old Ben, a gray horse who moved slowly but was very smart. Lisa was nervous around the horses at first. They were so big and powerful, but Tom showed her how to approach them calmly. He taught her to let them smell her hand first, then gently pet their necks. "Horses can sense fear," Tom explained, "but they can also sense kindness. Just be yourself around them." Charlie loved the barn. He ran around sniffing everything and trying to make friends with the horses. Some horses ignored him, but others seemed curious about this new furry visitor. After feeding the horses, they opened the gates and let them run to the pasture. Lisa watched in amazement as the powerful animals galloped across the field, their manes flowing in the wind. It was beautiful. "Now for the cattle," Tom said, walking toward a different field. The cows were bigger and more intimidating than the horses. They stood in groups, chewing grass and watching Lisa with curious eyes. Tom checked their water troughs and counted to make sure they were all there. "Sometimes cattle wander off," he explained. "We have to make sure none are missing or sick." Lisa tried to help, but she didn't know what to look for. Tom was patient, though. He showed her signs of healthy cattle versus sick ones. He explained how to read their body language. By the time they finished the morning chores, Lisa was exhausted. Her back hurt from bending over. Her clothes were dirty. Her hands were rough from handling feed buckets and ropes. But something strange happened. Despite being tired, she felt good, really good. She had accomplished something real with her hands. She had helped take care of living creatures. It was different from sitting at a computer all day. Tom noticed her looking thoughtful. "Hard work?" he asked. "Different work," Lisa replied. "But good different." Tom almost smiled at that. "You did well for your first day. It gets easier." They walked back to the house for lunch. Lisa looked around at the vast open spaces, the mountains in the distance, the clear blue sky. For the first time in days, she wasn't thinking about her ex-boyfriend or the wedding disaster. Maybe Amy's brother was right. Maybe it would get easier. Maybe this place was exactly what her broken heart needed. That afternoon, Tom introduced her to the other ranch workers. Pete was an older man who had worked on ranches his whole life. He wore a cowboy hat and spoke with a slow drawl. Miguel was younger and always seemed to be smiling. Both men were curious about the city girl who had come to work on their ranch. "You ever worked with cattle before?" Pete asked. "Never," Lisa admitted. "Well," Pete said with a grin, "you're about to learn real quick." Miguel laughed. "Don't worry, we all started somewhere. Tom will teach you good." Lisa felt grateful for their kindness. She had expected them to be unfriendly to an outsider. Instead, they seemed willing to help her learn. That evening, as the sun set over the mountains, Lisa sat on the front porch with Charlie beside her. Tom came out and sat in the chair next to her. They didn't talk much, but it wasn't uncomfortable silence. It was peaceful. "Thank you," Lisa said finally, "for letting me stay here. I know you didn't have to." Tom looked at her for a long moment. "Everyone deserves a fresh start," he said simply. Those words meant more to Lisa than he probably knew. For the first time since the wedding disaster, she felt hope. Maybe she could start over here. Maybe she could become someone stronger. As stars began to appear in the clear country sky, Lisa made a decision. She would work as hard as she could. She would learn everything Tom and the others could teach her. And maybe, just maybe, she would find herself again in this beautiful, peaceful place. The next few weeks passed like a blur of hard work and sore muscles. Lisa threw herself into ranch life with everything she had. Every morning at 5, she was up and ready to work. Her soft city hands became rough and calloused. Her pale skin turned golden from working in the sun. At first, everything was difficult. The feed buckets felt impossibly heavy. Her back ached from bending over to clean stalls. She tripped over her own feet trying to keep up with Tom's long strides. But slowly, things got easier. Tom was a patient teacher. He never got angry when she made mistakes. When she accidentally let Thunder loose from his stall, Tom just quietly helped her catch the horse. When she overfed the chickens and they got sick, he showed her the right amount without making her feel stupid. "Learning takes time," he would say in his calm way. "You're doing fine." The other workers, Pete and Miguel, also helped her learn. Pete taught her how to fix broken fence posts. Miguel showed her how to spot cattle that might be getting sick. They treated her like part of the team, not like a helpless city girl. Charlie loved the ranch life even more than Lisa did. He seemed to have natural instincts for working with animals. When the cattle wandered too far from the group, Charlie would run around them and guide them back. The horses didn't mind him running under their legs, even the chickens got used to him. "That dog's a natural ranch hand," Pete said one day, watching Charlie help move some stubborn cows. "Better than some people I've worked with." The work was physically exhausting, but Lisa discovered something amazing. Her mind, which had been spinning with angry and sad thoughts for weeks, finally started to quiet down. When she was focused on feeding horses or mending fences, she wasn't thinking about her ex-boyfriend. When she was learning to rope cattle, she wasn't remembering the humiliation of the wedding. The ranch demanded all of her attention. There was no room for wallowing in self-pity when a horse needed medical care, or when storm clouds were gathering and the animals needed to be brought to shelter. One night, about 3 weeks after she arrived, something wonderful happened. Mare named Rosie went into labor. It was her first baby, and she was having trouble. Tom was worried the foal might not survive. Lisa stayed up all night helping Tom in the barn. They took turns checking on Rosie, bringing her water and talking to her in soothing voices. Charlie lay nearby as if he knew something important was happening. Around 3 in the morning, the baby horse finally arrived. It was a beautiful, little filly with long, wobbly legs and big, curious eyes. When she tried to stand up for the first time, she fell down. Then she tried again and fell down again. But on the 3rd try, she managed to stay up. Lisa felt tears running down her cheeks as she watched the miracle of new life. For the first time in weeks, these were happy tears. "She's perfect," Lisa whispered. Tom looked at her with a gentle smile. "Life has a way of surprising you," he said. "Just when you think everything's broken, something beautiful happens." Lisa knew he wasn't just talking about the horse. As the days grew longer and warmer, Lisa noticed changes in herself. She was getting stronger physically. Her arms had muscles she'd never had before. She could lift heavy bales of hay without help. She could catch and saddle a horse by herself. But the changes went deeper than just physical strength. She was becoming more confident, more decisive. When problems came up on the ranch, she found herself thinking of solutions instead of panicking. One morning, she discovered that someone had left a gate open and several cattle had wandered into the neighbor's cornfield. Instead of running to find Tom, she got Charlie and worked together to guide the cattle back where they belonged. Then she fixed the broken latch on the gate so it wouldn't happen again. When Tom found out what had happened, he was impressed. "You handled that like a real ranch hand," he said with approval in his voice. Those words made Lisa feel proud in a way she'd never experienced in her old office job. The evenings were Lisa's favorite time. After the work was done, she would sit on the front porch with Charlie beside her. Sometimes Tom would join them. At first, they didn't talk much, but gradually they started sharing stories. Tom told her about growing up on the ranch, how his father had taught him everything about taking care of animals and land, how hard it was when his father died and left him to run everything alone, how sometimes he worried he wasn't good enough to keep the ranch successful. Lisa was surprised to learn that this strong, confident man had his own fears and doubts. In return, she told him about her old life in the city. Her boring office job where she stared at computer screens all day, How she had felt trapped in a life that didn't really fit her. How her ex-boyfriend had always made her feel like she wasn't interesting enough or pretty enough. He was wrong, Tom said quietly one evening. Anyone who would treat you that way doesn't deserve you. The way he said it with such certainty and kindness made Lisa's heart skip a beat. She was starting to notice things about Tom that she hadn't seen at first. How gentle he was with the animals, even the difficult ones. How he always made sure she and the other workers had enough to eat. How he worked harder than anyone else but never complained. She noticed the way his eyes crinkled when he almost smiled. How his voice got softer when he talked to scared animals. How he always seemed to know exactly what to do in any situation. One evening, they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. Charlie was asleep at their feet. The air smelled like hay and wildflowers. "I've been thinking," Lisa said carefully. "When I first came here, I was running away from something. But now I feel like I'm running toward something instead." Tom turned to look at her. "What are you running toward?" Lisa thought about it. "I don't know exactly. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm becoming who I'm supposed to be." They sat in comfortable silence watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. That night, Lisa lay in bed thinking about how much her life had changed. A month ago, she had been a broken-hearted city girl who didn't know anything about animals or hard work. Now she was someone who could deliver a baby horse, fix a broken fence, and find her way around a ranch in the dark. But the biggest change was in her heart. The constant ache of sadness and anger was fading. In its place was something new: hope, strength, and if she was honest with herself, something else too. She was developing feelings for Tom. It scared her a little. Was it too soon after her broken engagement? Was she just grateful to him for helping her? Or was this something real? She thought about the way her heart beat faster when he smiled at her, how safe she felt when he was nearby, how right it felt to work beside him every day. Maybe it was too soon to know for sure, but one thing was certain. This ranch, this work, and this quiet, kind man were helping her heal in ways she never expected. The next morning brought new challenges. A storm was coming, and they needed to make sure all the animals were safe. Lisa worked alongside Tom and the others, feeling like a true part of the team. As they secured the last of the equipment, Tom caught her eye. "You've become quite the ranch hand," he said with something that might have been pride in his voice. "I had a good teacher," Lisa replied. For a moment, they just looked at each other. There was something in Tom's eyes that made Lisa's breath catch. Something warm and deep and promising. Then the first drops of rain began to fall and they ran for the house laughing. But the feeling between them lingered, growing stronger with each passing day. Summer arrived in full swing, bringing longer days and warmer nights. Lisa had been on the ranch for almost 2 months, and she could hardly recognize the woman she used to be. Her hands were strong and sure now. Her body was lean and tanned from outdoor work. But most importantly, her heart felt lighter than it had in years. The connection between her and Tom was growing stronger every day. It started with small things. The way he would save her the last cup of coffee in the morning. How he always seemed to appear when she was struggling with a difficult task. Not to take over, but to help. The way he listened when she talked. Really, listened, like her words mattered. Lisa found herself looking forward to their evening conversations on the porch more than anything else. They would talk about everything and nothing. Tom told her about his dreams for the ranch, how he wanted to expand the horse breeding program. Lisa shared her thoughts about the future, surprised to find herself imagining staying here instead of returning to city life. One hot afternoon, they were working together to repair a section of fence that had been damaged in the recent storm. The sun was beating down mercilessly, and sweat dripped down both their faces. Lisa reached for a hammer at the same time Tom did, and their hands touched. The contact sent electricity shooting up her arm. Tom felt it too. She could see it in the way his eyes widened slightly. For a moment, they just stood there, hands touching, looking at each other. Then a cow mooed loudly nearby, breaking the spell, and they both laughed nervously. But after that moment, something changed between them. The accidental touches became more frequent. a hand on her shoulder when Tom showed her a new technique, standing closer together when they worked, their eyes meeting across the barn and holding for just a beat too long. Pete and Miguel noticed too. Lisa caught them exchanging knowing looks when Tom would find excuses to work near her. One day, Miguel winked at her when Tom brought her a cool drink without her asking. "The boss is sweet on you," he said with a grin. Lisa felt her cheeks burn, but she couldn't deny the happiness that bubbled up in her chest. The ranch was struggling financially, though Tom tried to hide it. Lisa had overheard enough phone conversations to know that money was tight, equipment was breaking down, and repairs were expensive. The thought of anything happening to this place that had become her sanctuary made her heart ache. One evening, she brought up the subject carefully. "Is there anything I can do to help more?" she asked. "I know things are difficult right now." Tom looked surprised that she had noticed. He was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the pasture where the horses were grazing. "I've been thinking about selling some of the land," he admitted finally. "There's a developer who's been asking about the north pasture. It would solve the money problems, but it wouldn't be the same ranch," Lisa finished. "Exactly. My father would roll over in his grave if he knew I was even considering it." Lisa's heart went out to him. She could see how torn he was between practical necessity and honoring his family's legacy. "Maybe there's another way," she said. "What about expanding the horse training program, or offering riding lessons to city kids?" Tom smiled at her enthusiasm. "You sound like you're planning to stick around." The question hung in the air between them. Lisa realized she was planning to stick around, even though she hadn't said it out loud yet. "Maybe I am," she said softly. That night, a severe thunderstorm hit the ranch. Lisa woke up to the sound of thunder crashing overhead and rain pounding against her window. Charlie was pacing nervously in her room, whining at the storm. Suddenly, she heard horses neighing in distress from the barn. She threw on her clothes and rain boots and ran outside, Charlie at her heels. The barn was in chaos. Lightning had spooked the horses badly, and they were kicking at their stall doors and neighing in panic. Tom was already there, trying to calm Thunder, who was rearing up on his hind legs. "Help me with Daisy," Tom shouted over the storm. "She's going to hurt herself." Lisa ran to Daisy's stall. The usually gentle mare was trembling and rolling her eyes in fear. Lisa spoke to her in the soothing voice Tom had taught her, slowly approaching with her hand extended. "It's okay, girl," she said softly. "You're safe, I'm here." Gradually, Daisy began to calm down. Lisa stroked her neck and continued talking to her in gentle tones. One by one, the other horses began to settle as well. It took over an hour to get all the horses calm again. By the time they finished, both Lisa and Tom were soaked to the skin and exhausted. They stood in the middle of the barn, breathing hard and looking at each other. "You were amazing with them," Tom said, his voice full of admiration. "They trust you completely." "I learned from the best," Lisa replied. They were standing close together, both of them dripping wet and breathing hard from the effort. The air between them felt charged with more than just the electricity from the storm. "Lisa," Tom said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, "I need to tell you something." Her heart started beating faster. "What?" "I've been trying to fight this, but I can't anymore. I have feelings for you. Strong feelings." Lisa felt like her heart might burst with happiness. "I have feelings for you too," she whispered back. That's when Tom stepped closer and gently cupped her face in his hands. "Are you sure? I know you've been through a lot. I don't want to take advantage of you when you're still healing." Lisa looked into his honest, caring eyes and knew with absolute certainty that this was right. This man, this place, this feeling, it was all exactly where she belonged. "I'm sure," she said. When Tom kissed her, it was nothing like the kisses she remembered from her previous relationship. This kiss was gentle but passionate, tender but strong. It tasted like rain and possibility and coming home. When they finally broke apart, both of them were smiling. "I was hoping you'd say that," Tom said, resting his forehead against hers. "How long have you been thinking about this?" Lisa asked. Probably since the day you helped deliver Rosie's foal, Tom admitted. Watching you that night, seeing how much you cared, how naturally you fit into this life, I knew you were special. They talked until dawn, sharing their hopes and fears and dreams. Tom told her how lonely he had been trying to run the ranch by himself. Lisa told him how she had never felt truly seen and appreciated until she came here. As the sun rose over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they knew their relationship had changed forever. The next few weeks were like a beautiful dream. They worked together during the day, stealing kisses in the barn when Pete and Miguel weren't looking. In the evenings, they would take long walks around the ranch, talking and laughing and planning their future together. Tom taught Lisa to ride the horses properly, not just for work, but for pleasure. They would go on sunset rides through the mountains, with Charlie running alongside them. Lisa had never felt so free or so happy. One evening, as they sat by a small stream that ran through the property, Tom took her hand. "I love you," he said simply. "I know it might seem fast, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Lisa felt tears of joy spring to her eyes. "I love you too," she said. "I never thought I could feel this way about anyone." They kissed, under the stars with the sound of water flowing nearby and Charlie sleeping peacefully at their feet. Lisa thought about how different her life was from just a few months ago. Back then she had thought she knew what love was. But this feeling with Tom was deeper and truer than anything she had ever experienced. This wasn't just romance, it was partnership. They worked together, supported each other, and brought out the best in each other. Tom made her feel strong and capable and beautiful. She made him feel less alone and more hopeful about the future. But even in the midst of their happiness, Lisa sometimes felt a small worry in the back of her mind. Was this real, or was she just caught up in the novelty of ranch life? Could a city girl like her really make a life in this rural place? She tried to push these doubts away, but they lingered like shadows at the edge of her consciousness. She loved Tom, and she loved the ranch. But part of her wondered if she was living in a fantasy that couldn't last forever. Still, when she looked into Tom's eyes and saw the love and acceptance there, when she watched the sunrise over the mountains, or felt the satisfaction of a hard day's work well done, she felt more at home than she ever had in the city. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them with Tom by her side. Life on the ranch had settled into a perfect rhythm. Lisa woke up each morning excited to start the day. She and Tom worked side by side, their love growing stronger with each shared sunrise and sunset. The financial problems were still there, but they were facing them together, making plans and dreaming of solutions. Lisa had been on the ranch for 3 months when her peaceful world came crashing down. It was a hot Tuesday afternoon in July. She was in the barn grooming Daisy when she heard a car pull up outside. Charlie, who had been napping in the hay, suddenly stood up and growled. That was strange. Charlie was usually friendly with visitors. Lisa walked to the barn door and felt her blood turn cold. A shiny black car was parked in the driveway, completely out of place among the pickup trucks and farm equipment. And getting out of that car was the last person she ever expected to see. David. Her ex-boyfriend, the man who had left her at the altar. He was wearing an expensive business suit that looked ridiculous on a ranch. His shoes were polished leather that would be ruined by the first step in the dirt. His hair was perfectly styled, and he looked exactly like the successful businessman he was. Lisa's hands started shaking. Her heart began racing, but not in the good way it did when she saw Tom. This was panic, pure and simple. "Lisa," David called out, flashing his charming smile. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." Lisa couldn't move. She felt like she was in a nightmare. Charlie pressed against her leg, sensing her distress. "What are you doing here?" she managed to say. David walked toward her, his expensive shoes already getting dusty. "I came to bring you home, of course. I made a terrible mistake, Lisa. The biggest mistake of my life." "You can't just show up here," Lisa said, finding her voice. "You have no right." "I have every right," David said, his tone becoming more insistent. "You're my fiancé. We're supposed to be married by now." We're not engaged anymore, Lisa said firmly. You ended that when you ran away from our wedding. David had the grace to look ashamed for a moment. I panicked, okay? Wedding nerves. But I've realized now that you're the only woman I want to marry. I've ended things with her. It's over. I want you back. Lisa felt sick. 3 months ago, hearing these words might have meant everything to her. But now, they just made her angry. You're 3 months too late, she said. I'm not the same person who was standing in that church. That's when Tom appeared around the corner of the barn. He took one look at the situation and immediately understood what was happening. His jaw tightened, and his eyes went cold. Is there a problem here? Tom asked in a voice Lisa had never heard before. It was calm but dangerous. David looked Tom up and down, taking in the worn jeans, work boots, and cowboy hat. His expression was dismissive and arrogant. You must be the ranch hand, David said rudely. This is between me and my fiancé. It's none of your business. Actually, Tom said, stepping closer to Lisa, it is my business. Lisa isn't your fiancé anymore, and this is my ranch. David's eyebrows shot up. Clearly, he hadn't expected the hired help to own the place. Look, David said, trying to sound reasonable. I understand Lisa has been hiding out here playing farm girl, but it's time for her to come back to reality. She has a real life waiting for her in the city. This is my real life, Lisa said, anger giving her strength. More real than anything I had with you. David laughed, but it wasn't a nice sound. Come on, Lisa. You can't seriously be thinking of staying here permanently. You're a city girl. You need shopping malls and restaurants and civilization. What kind of future can you have with a dirt-poor cowboy? Tom's face went very still. Lisa could see the words hit their mark. She knew Tom worried about money and whether he could provide the kind of life he thought she deserved. Don't talk about him like that, Lisa said fiercely. Tom is worth 10 of you. Is he? David asked, pulling out his phone. Because I've done some research on this place. Your boyfriend here is about to lose the ranch, isn't he? Bank's calling. In loans, equipment's falling apart. How romantic will it be when you're both homeless? Lisa felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. She looked at Tom, who was staring at the ground, his face red with shame and anger. That's not your concern, Tom said quietly. But it should be Lisa's concern. David pressed on. I'm offering her security, a beautiful home, a successful husband, who can take care of her properly. I can take care of myself, Lisa said, but David's words had planted seeds of doubt in her mind. Was she being naive? Was she living in a fantasy that couldn't last? David seemed to sense her uncertainty. He stepped closer, his voice becoming softer and more persuasive. Lisa, sweetheart, I know you're angry with me. You have every right to be, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can take a long honeymoon somewhere beautiful. I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to you. It's too late, Lisa said, but her voice sounded less certain than before. It's never too late for people who really love each other, David said. And I do love you, Lisa. I always have. I was just scared of commitment, but I'm ready now. We can have the life we planned together. Tom had been listening to this conversation with growing tension. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. I think you should leave, he said to David, his voice low and dangerous. David turned to face him, his own anger finally showing. I'm not leaving without Lisa. She doesn't belong here, and deep down, she knows it. Let her decide that for herself, Tom said. Fine, David said. Then he grabbed Lisa's arm, not roughly but firmly. Lisa, come with me. Stop this foolishness and come home where you belong. That's when Tom lost his composure. In one quick movement, he stepped between David and Lisa, forcing David to let go of her arm. Don't touch her, Tom said, his voice deadly calm. Ever. David was taller than Tom, but not as strong. Still, he tried to stand his ground. This is ridiculous, David said. You're nothing but a failing rancher who can't even pay his bills. What can you possibly offer her? Love, Tom said simply. Respect. A partnership where she's valued for who she really is, not who someone wants her to be. For a moment, the three of them stood there in tense silence. Charlie was still pressed against Lisa's legs, growling softly at David. Finally, David stepped back, but his parting words were cruel and calculated. "Think about it, Lisa," he said. "Think about what you're giving up. A secure future for what? Playing house with a man who might lose everything? This isn't real life. This is just you hiding from reality." He got back in his expensive car and drove away, leaving a cloud of dust and a terrible silence behind. Lisa stood there shaking, not from fear but from anger and confusion. Tom's face was dark with emotion, shame, anger, and something that looked like defeat. "Tom," Lisa began, but he held up his hand. "He's not wrong about the money," Tom said bitterly. "I am about to lose this place. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you." "Why didn't you tell me?" Lisa asked. "Because I'm ashamed," Tom admitted. "Because I fell in love with you, and I wanted to be the kind of man who could take care of you properly. Instead, I'm just a failure who's about to lose his family's ranch." "You're not a failure," Lisa said, reaching for him, but Tom stepped away. "Maybe David's right. Maybe you deserve better than this, better than me." "Don't say that," Lisa pleaded. "Don't let him poison what we have." But the damage was done. David's visit had reopened all of Lisa's old insecurities and awakened new ones, and it had made Tom feel like he wasn't good enough for her. That night they barely talked. Tom was distant and quiet, lost in his own thoughts. Lisa lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning with questions and doubts. Was David right? Was she just hiding from reality? Could she really be happy with a life that might include financial struggle and uncertainty? And if the ranch failed, what would happen to her and Tom? For the first time since arriving at the ranch, Lisa felt truly lost and confused. She had thought she knew what she wanted, but David's visit had shaken her confidence to the core. The next few days were awkward and painful. Tom threw himself into work with desperate intensity, barely speaking to anyone. Lisa tried to act normal, but she felt like she was walking on eggshells. Pete and Miguel noticed the tension but didn't know what to say. Even Charlie seemed subdued, sensing that something had changed in his happy world. Lisa found herself thinking about David's words over and over. Was she being foolish? Was love enough to build a life on? What if the ranch really did fail? What if she and Tom ended up struggling financially for years? She had never cared much about money when she was with David, but that was because financial security was never in question. Now, for the first time, she was facing the possibility of real hardship, and if she was honest with herself, that scared her. 3 days after David's visit, Lisa made a decision that surprised even her. She went into town and called David from a payphone. "I need time to think," she told him. "Don't come back to the ranch, but maybe we should talk. Really talk." "I knew you'd come to your senses," David said, sounding relieved and triumphant. "I'm staying at the hotel in town. We can have dinner tonight and discuss our future." After she hung up, Lisa felt sick to her stomach. Was she making the right choice, or was she about to make the biggest mistake of her life? She thought about Tom, probably back at the ranch working himself too. Lisa's hands were shaking as she walked toward the barn to find Tom. She had been rehearsing what to say, but every version sounded terrible in her head. How do you tell the man you love that you're going to have dinner with your ex-boyfriend? How do you explain doubts that you're not even sure you should be having? She found Tom in Thunder's stall, brushing the horse with mechanical, repetitive strokes. He didn't look up when she approached, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. "Tom," she said softly, "we need to talk." He stopped brushing, but still didn't look at her. "If you're here to tell me you're leaving, just say it. Don't drag it out." The pain in his voice made her heart ache. "I'm not leaving." "Not exactly, I need some time to think. David asked me to have dinner with him tonight. To talk." Now Tom did look at her, and the hurt in his eyes was devastating. "So you're going?" "I need to hear what he has to say," Lisa said, hating how the words sounded even as she spoke them. "I need to be sure about my choice." "And you're not sure," Tom said. It wasn't a question. Lisa wanted to lie to reassure him, but she owed him honesty. I thought I was, but his visit stirred up a lot of feelings, doubts, questions. Tom sat down the brush and leaned against Thunder's stall. The big horse nuzzled his shoulder gently as if trying to comfort him. What kinds of questions? Tom asked. Lisa took a deep breath. About the future, about what happens if the ranch fails, about whether I'm strong enough for this kind of life, and about whether I'm good enough for you, Tom added quietly. That's not what this is about, Lisa protested, isn't it? Tom turned to face her fully. David was right about one thing. I can't give you the kind of security he can. I can't promise you a big house or expensive vacations or financial stability. I don't need those things, Lisa said. Don't you? Tom's voice was gentle but serious. Lisa, you've been playing ranch life for 3 months, but what happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when we have a bad year and struggle to pay bills? What happens when the work gets harder and the rewards get smaller? Lisa felt tears starting to form. You think I'm just playing? I think you're a good person who got caught up in a fantasy, Tom said sadly, and I think maybe David showing up was a wake-up call for both of us. That night, Lisa sat across from David at the fanciest restaurant in the small town. He had changed into casual clothes but still looked out of place among the local ranchers and farmers. The restaurant was nice by small-town standards, but Lisa found herself comparing it to the places they used to go in the city. David was being his most charming self. He apologized again for leaving her at the altar. He talked about how much he had missed her, how empty his life had been without her. He painted a picture of their future together that sounded comfortable and safe. I've been thinking about what you said, David told her over dessert. About me not really seeing you for who you are. I want to change that. I want to be a better partner. What does that mean exactly? Lisa asked. It means I want to support your interests. If you want to keep horses as a hobby, we can buy a place with some land. If you want to do charity work with animals, I'll support that. I want to make you happy, Lisa. It sounded reasonable, mature, like the kind of compromise adults make. But as David talked, Lisa found herself thinking about Tom, about the way he looked at her like she was the strongest, most capable person in the world, about working side by side to deliver a foal or repair a fence, about sitting on the porch in comfortable silence watching the stars. You're not really listening, David said, interrupting her thoughts. I am, Lisa said. I'm just processing everything, Lisa. David leaned forward and took her hand. I know I hurt you, I know I broke your trust, but we had 4 years together. 4 good years. Doesn't that count for something? Lisa looked down at their joined hands. David's hands were soft and clean with manicured nails. Tom's hands were rough and calloused with small scars from years of hard work. Both were nice hands, but only one pair made her heart race when they touched her. It counts for something, she said honestly. But people change, David. I've changed. You can change back, David said urgently. You can remember who you really are. What if this is who I really am? Lisa asked. What if the person you fell in love with was just who I thought I was supposed to be? David looked frustrated. Lisa, you're a smart, sophisticated woman. You don't belong on some failing ranch in the middle of nowhere. According to who? Lisa asked, feeling a spark of anger. According to you? You don't get to decide where I belong. They drove back to the ranch in separate cars with David following her. He had insisted on seeing her to the door, like a gentleman, but Lisa suspected he wanted to get another look at Tom and the ranch to remind her of what she would be choosing. The ranch was quiet when they arrived. Most of the lights were off, though Lisa could see a glow from the kitchen window. Tom was probably sitting at the table waiting to hear about her decision. This place looks even worse at night, David said, getting out of his car. Lisa, surely you can see that this isn't sustainable. But Lisa was looking at the ranch with different eyes now. She saw the sturdy barn that had sheltered her through storms, the pasture where she had learned to ride, the house where she had found peace and healing and love. It looks like home to me, she said softly. That's when she heard Charlie barking from inside the house. A moment later, the front door opened and Tom stepped onto the porch. Even in the dim light, she could see the tension in his posture. "Everything okay out here?" Tom called. "Everything's fine," Lisa called back. David was just leaving. But David wasn't ready to give up yet. He grabbed Lisa's arm, not roughly but insistently. "Lisa, please, don't make this mistake. Come home. With me tonight, we can work everything out." "Let go of me," Lisa said firmly. David didn't let go. "I love you. I know I messed up, but I love you." That's when Tom came down from the porch, moving fast but controlled. Charlie was right behind him, growling low in his throat. "She asked you to let go," Tom said, his voice deadly calm. David finally released Lisa's arm but didn't back down. "This is between me and my girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," Lisa corrected. "And Tom's right, you need to leave." "I'm not leaving without you," David said desperately. "Lisa, look around, really look. Is this the life you want? Struggling to make ends meet? Working yourself to death on a ranch that's going to fail anyway?" "Yes," Lisa said, and as soon as the word left her mouth, she knew it was true. "Yes, this is exactly the life I want." David stared at her in disbelief. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," Lisa said. She turned to Tom, who was watching her with hope and fear warring in his eyes. "Tom, I'm sorry I doubted us. I'm sorry I let him make me question what we have." "Lisa, don't do this," David pleaded. "You'll regret it. When the money runs out and the romance wears off, you'll regret it." Lisa turned back to him. "David, you want to know the difference between you and Tom? You fell in love with who you thought I should be. Tom fell in love with who I actually am." She walked over to Tom and took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong and certain. "This ranch might fail," she said to David. "We might struggle financially. There might be hard times ahead, but we'll face them together, as partners. That's worth more to me than all the security in the world." David stared at them for a long moment, his face cycling through anger, disbelief, and finally, resignation. "You're making a mistake," he said one last time. "A huge mistake." "Maybe," Lisa said. "But it's my mistake to make." David got in his car and drove away, his taillights disappearing into the night. Lisa and Tom stood in the driveway, still holding hands, listening to the sound of his engine fade away. "Are you sure?" Tom asked quietly. "Really sure?" Lisa turned, to face him fully. "Tom, I've been thinking about what David said. About security and stability and practical things, and you know what I realized?" "What?" "I had all of those things with him and I was miserable. I was living someone else's idea of a perfect life. But here with you, even when things are hard, even when we're worried about money, I'm happy. I'm myself." Tom cupped her face in his hands. "Lisa, I can't promise you an easy life. I can't promise we won't struggle. I don't want easy," Lisa said. "I want real. I want to build something with you even if it's difficult, especially if it's difficult." Tom kissed her then, deep and passionate and full of relief and love and promise. Charlie barked happily and jumped up on both of them, as if celebrating their reunion. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying and laughing at the same time. "So what happens now?" Tom asked. "Now we figure it out together," Lisa said. "All of it. The ranch, the money problems, our future. We're a team." The next morning, Lisa called Amy to tell her she was staying on the ranch permanently. Amy was thrilled and not at all surprised. "I always thought you and my brother would be perfect for each other," she admitted. "I was kind of hoping this would happen when I told him to let you stay." "You were matchmaking?" Lisa asked. "Maybe a little," Amy said with a laugh. "Tom's been alone for too long, and you needed someone who would appreciate your strength." Over the following months, Lisa and Tom worked together to save the ranch. They started offering riding lessons to kids from town. They